All right, good morning. Today we're going to talk about Cabbage Patch Kids and just a little bit about why talk about conspiracy in general. Buckle up, folks. You're on the Bearded and Blessed podcast.
Welcome to the Bearded and Blessed podcast. Honest, everyday conversations anchored in faith.
All right, good morning. Man, I'm glad to be here. Dude, after last week, I don't know, we didn't even look, but the mullet toss took place over the weekend. I think it was like on the 27th or 28th.
That's crazy.
So I tell you what, since I wasn't able to do it, I decided to start practicing. And I just bought some fish from like Publix and just started throwing that neighbor's
Over
pool.
your neighbor's.
And the funny thing is that house is for sale. So it's just a bunch of dead fish floating in that pool now.
My neighbor's house is not for sale, but I'd still love to toss some fish in that guy's yard.
Make sure it's a mullet, man.
Make sure it's a mullet.
It's got to be done the right way.
Try and get it up in his trees so it falls down piece by piece.
You know what? This year, next time, we should both grow mullets and go on up there.
I don't think I'm growing a mullet, pal. My hair grows out into an afro when I grow it. So
there we go. Well, we can fix that, man. We'll get mullet wigs.
Get some mullet wigs. Let's do it.
All right. You know, there's been so much going on in the world, and we're going to talk about this a little bit. We're going to start with a conspiracy theory first, but we'll get into it a little bit more as we go. But conspiracy in general, like, there's a reason. People started asking questions, I'm sure, even before JFK. But this all really kind of started when he was assassinated.
Yeah.
And the special alphabet agencies that are out there labeled those people conspiracy theorists. And that stuck.
It did.
And I think they really weren't anything more than average, ordinary people that were like, something doesn't smell right.
Yeah.
And in your house, if you have pets and something stinks, there's crap in a corner somewhere.
You poke around a little bit till you find out what's wrong.
So we're going to jump into this first topic. I would have never known anything about this stuff if some other things hadn't happened in life, which we'll talk about later in the middle segment as well.
Yep.
But it's just interesting to me how maybe we haven't been told everything that we think we've been told.
And that's the thing. And I think that's what makes people uncomfortable.
Makes me uncomfortable.
You know, it's like, what? I can't believe everything that somebody's telling me anymore. You used to be able to watch the news and just get the news, and now you can't. Now you can't just believe everything that comes across, but at the same time, if you don't just believe it, that's one of those crazy conspiracy guys.
Well,
when all we're doing is asking questions.
So anyway, let's jump into this particular topic here. So Cabbage Patch Kids came out in like what, 1986 or something like that?
Something like that, man. I remember them, dude.
Yeah.
I used to have to buy my kids.
Yeah, the little bait.
The freaking little birth certificate crap that came with them. And
you're not that old. You had kids when Cabbage Patch Kids came out?
Let's see. Well, no, I bought my kids. They were still around. You can still find them now.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. All right. Well, we thought they were little harmless,
little pudgy freaking kid dolls.
Right. And like something that some toy company came up with, some idea or something.
That now, you know, me being older, if I freaking have too much salt, my wife's like, oh, look at your little Cabbage Patch feet.
It could be worse. She could be saying your cheeks look like it too. Yeah. Nobody sees your feet. Yeah. We're going to take a listen to this first little video here, but there's like 2 or 3 of them. They're not real long, but they start to make you wondering, what the crap, man?
What in the world, man? Is there nothing that is innocent anymore?
If it's mainstream, it seems like it's got some kind of connotation to it that isn't necessarily innocent.
Yeah, I guess that's the word, man.
All right, let's take a listen here.
Most people think Cabbage Patch Kids were just a strange 1980s toy, but the idea behind them is much older and much stranger. Before the dolls ever existed, old world postcards showed babies literally growing out of cabbages. Thousands of them. This imagery was common in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And here's where it gets unsettling. During that same time period, babies were actually being mailed through the U.S. Postal Service. Not figuratively, literally shipped like packages. There were also advertisements that looked less like adoption and more like shopping. People browsing, selecting children, almost like inventory. Now consider something else from that era. Old photographs show entire cities already built, but strangely empty. Massive streets, grand buildings, very few people. Some researchers ask a disturbing question. What if children were being removed from families and redistributed to repopulate these found cities? Cities often associated with Tartarian-style architecture. Places that look finished but underoccupied. Why do so many early city photos look more like set pieces than living communities? And why does this period coincide with mass orphaning, child relocation programs, and the normalization of adoption over birth? Some believe the cabbage imagery symbolized children with no recorded origin. Not born here, but placed here.
What do you think of that,
That's
man?
wild, dude. I've never heard that before.
I hadn't either until probably the last 6 months to a year. You and I talked about this before. We just scratch the surface of this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I don't let it consume me. I don't let it drive my life or the narrative that I live in or anything. But it does sort of make you wonder, okay, what's influencing culture? What's influencing society?
Yeah.
Why is entertainment the way it is? Why do we have dolls that match a historical event that is pretty messed up?
Yeah.
But going any deeper than that, I usually don't do that. But I did scratch the surface a little deeper on this, and there was like this mass adoption kind of thing going on.
No kidding.
And these World's Fairs, like they're showing on there, like they would have all these baby incubators. I think another video might talk about it, but it was almost like a carnival. And this section of the show would allow people to come in and basically buy a baby.
That's wild, dude.
And like I said, last week when we looked at this and we were like, you can't sell your children in Florida. It's like, well, maybe the reason for that is because years ago you could ship them by mail.
You could, yeah, for real.
How does that work?
Like, at what point does a society have to come up with a law that says your children are not an object to be sold?
Well, I can't remember what we talked about last week, but wasn't it like 2019 or something with Mississippi?
Like that, you know?
It's either 2009 or 2019, so maybe you could still get a UPS package in Mississippi with...
You know, it's unsettling because, you know, we can look at this from back then and be like, wow, we were messed up back then.
Right.
But then most of what you hear going on in the world today, you look at the so-called, you know, it makes me sick to my stomach, but pizza parties in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Okay, you look at all this crap going on with this Epstein list thing.
And social media posts about it all. And all
social media posting about it. What about the border crisis where hundreds of thousands of kids are unaccounted for and missing? And what in the world are we doing? And people will say, man, why are you guys focused on this? Why are you doing this? Because if you don't ask the question, what are we doing as a nation? A nation that does not value its most innocent citizens, its children.
Yeah.
What value and what direction does it have, and is it actually heading in?
Well, and I think one of the other points of that is we've been taught to point fingers at political parties and certain people, but then you find out that every administration is doing some of the same things, some worse than others, but the underlying truth is they're all doing it.
They're all doing it, man, at some point.
And so I think that really kind of, you know, it's a wedge that's being used that's artificial.
Yeah.
And it's keeping us from looking at the actual point because we're pointing at who's doing it, but they're all doing it.
And I was just going to say, and that wedge is purposeful. It's purposeful to cover up what exactly was going on. It's kind of like somebody's got something going on when they're constantly talking, well, this guy over here is doing this, and this guy's doing that, and this one's doing this. And we all know that that's the purpose. So don't look at what I'm doing, but I'm going to keep you focused on what somebody else is doing.
Which the word speaks to.
Absolutely, man.
You know, if you're so preoccupied with the speck in somebody else's eye, then that log in your own is causing problems. All right, so this video really kind of talks about what I was just talking about. It gives a little more explanation of what was going on, like as far as these incubators and these World's Fair kind of things.
This is wild. Blows my mind.
We'll check this out real quick.
How is this normal? In the late 1800s, premature babies were displayed in incubators at public fairs. Crowds would gather and pay just to watch them. Who was paying to see this? Stories about babies coming from cabbage patches made it all feel ordinary, but looking back, it doesn't feel normal at all. Ask your grandparents about this.
Man, that is something like I tell myself every day. I did not spend enough time with my grandparents.
Yeah, we did a show on that too.
We did.
You know,
we talked about all these other cultures that passed down from generation to generation, and what had happened. And if you talk to any Native American tribe or like chief or whatever nowadays, they know what happened generations ago.
Yep.
And some of the burial mound stuff, and that's not ours.
Yeah,
you know? We don't know anything.
No.
It's even gotten me to the point where it's like I need to talk to my kids more and tell them about my experiences as a kid growing up. And we make fun of it all the time. We're like, yeah, we were out on our bikes until, midnight. And now you guys feel like you're punished if we put you outside.
I know. I tell my kids, because we had a virus go through our house, and my kids are taking my kid, he's 20, taking the NyQuil, and I don't drink anything after that because it's going to dilute the medicine. He's like, what? I'm like, that's what my mom used to tell me. I said, my mom, not even my dad, my mom.
Wow.
This is with that nasty taste in your mouth for half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. Let it sink in.
Just
You know what's crazy? Like thinking about that. Remember when kids had chicken pox when we were little?
All get together.
Right. Have a party.
Now put on a mask.
Right.
Stay
no,
6
get a
feet
vaccine.
away.
Don't ever get chicken pox.
Get a vaccine. That's great. Because that crap's not going to evolve into something else.
No, it's some different times. But what I was going to show you after kind of showing those first two videos, just setting this all up, I think it was maybe the first. They called it the first advertisement. So this would have played like before movies and stuff.
Wow.
But it's like a silent type video of the whole Cabbage Patch thing.
No kidding.
And watch this. This is crazy.
Look at this weird old video. What are they trying to sell to you? What are they trying to tell you? Bear in mind, this is the world's first narrative advert ever shown. Sorry, I mean film. Yup, you saw that correctly. Picked up that bare cabbage off the cold floor. Just leave them there on the floor crying and carry on with the advert. Nothing to see here, folks. Some people will say it's just a film, but I'd rather wear a tinfoil hat than a blindfold.
That last one looked unalive.
Yo, that baby was not moving.
No, and the other ones were squirming around. And she's dancing around like a little fairy. Like,
look, if this doesn't irritate you, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
You have become so desensitized by the media and by the internet that if you can just brush that off and be like,
why doesn't it make other people wonder, like, historically, like, are we only being told the stuff about history that's in the classrooms, and it's like, this is what you can know, everything else is forbidden, or we deem it irrelevant So you don't need to learn it.
Well, and there you go. You perfectly, dude. We will tell you what information is important for you to have.
Yeah. So in that particular video, Alice Guy was the actress, and she was definitely being the Cabbage Patch Fairy here. So my thought process is, when somebody sees this back during that time period, what goes through their mind, or what is the expectation of, if you go to see a film and this is played before the film, who are you?
It's just like studying the Bible. What is the context of it? What was the purpose of this short little film, besides maybe to make the audience nauseous, which it should have done?
Yeah. So on this particular site, moviessilently.com, which I guess talks about a lot of old silent films, this says the Cabbage Patch Fairy is very much along the lines of Guy's 1899 comedy Wonderful Absinthe. That is to say, it does not endeavor to explain, but rather showcase something that would have been a common part of the audience's life and illustrates it in a light, amusing manner. In the case of Wonderful Absinthe, it is the fact that absinthe tastes terrible unless it is diluted. Here it is the common folk tale that babies are found in cabbage patches or under cabbage leaves. See, the conspiracy theory is they're Cabbage Patch babies because they came out of a pod and were cloned.
Okay. Where this is saying that it avoided it has everything to do from magic. And Skyland children were often placing cabbage leaves outside their homes, asking fairies to bring them new siblings. It's freaking creepy as hell, bro.
Yeah.
Or that they wanted to not have to explain where babies came from.
It may clearly be just a folklore kind of thing. The same thing we would see with like storks or something of that nature.
Yeah.
But it definitely seemed like during that time, I mean, you can't take away the fact that there were World's Fairs, adoption, incubators and stuff on display. So we've kind of learned that like folklore means something.
Yeah, and what you can find is there's usually some type of truth in the folklore.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think what we can look at is folklore that was harmless a couple hundred years ago has now given way to ideas of their own type of plan to do things. So where maybe the Cabbage Patch Kid was harmless back then, now you look at it and, well, the Cabbage Patch is a hybrid plant, the cloning of kids. Maybe they weren't able to do that then. Maybe they're able to do that now. I mean, I know now, hell, you can go to some companies and you can pick your kid's eye color.
Yeah.
You got enough money, you can pick their IQ.
Yeah.
Like,
so
where did that start, though? Because it started somewhere simpler.
Well, what's crazy about this is, so this happened in the early 1900s, 1914. That's not too far away from the Nazis' eugenics stuff.
No.
You could even go back into the Old Testament times and see where they were playing with creation. They were playing with the humanity, And
then here you go. If you want to stick with the fact that in 50 years from this time, we went to the moon, you're going to tell me that their technology, that they didn't have more technology back then, and that their technology jumped that far within a half a generation? You don't even understand technology then.
Well, and not only that, but the technology that's out now is 100 times slower than the technology they actually have.
Yeah.
And always has been.
Yep.
I mean, you look at, well, I've pointed to this before, but you look at 1977 Star Wars, and it blew people out of the water. People can make Star Wars now in their home on their PC.
Absolutely. Remember watching Star Trek, their communicators.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Oh, that'll never happen.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, they can control everything with that little
now
thing?
Our kids would be like,
people?
I got a flip phone? What now? Why you hate me, bro?
Why are we poor?
Why are we poor?
So I think the one last thing to kind of end on here, apparently in 1914, there was American book written called Teaching Sex Hygiene in the Public Schools.
Wow.
Yay. If you want your child to come to believe that you are an untruthful or unreliable person, or that you are not conversant with the things that you should know, begin to tell him falsehoods and evade the truth when he is small. When your child of 4 or 5 asks you where the body came from, tell him some fanciful story about the stork bringing it, or that you found it under a cabbage leaf. He will find out soon that you have lied to him and will not bother you with other questions. There's a couple things to take away from that. Like, there's a lot of truth in that, but also there's a lot of manipulation in that.
There is, just in the way it's worded, too.
Right. Do what we say, or these are the consequences.
Yeah. You can be a piece of crap parent and do this, or you cannot.
Right. And so choose which of the two you think it is.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a combination of the two. I think when it comes to parenting, nobody knows your kids better than you do.
Yeah.
And every child is an individual basis on how you handle whatever scenario it is.
100%, man.
And so don't tell me what to do.
Don't tell me what to do. You know, that's the thing is, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah. There is another interesting part of this, and that's the fact that it wasn't just the Americas, it was Canada too, apparently. And
not Canada. How dare you?
This guy's a really cool individual, by the way. This channel is called Tinfoil to Truth. He's in a forum that I'm in, and man, his videos are really, really good.
He's in desperate need of a beard.
You know,
it's too much face to look at.
I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, man, as long as we're doing this show, we can never shave.
But I will never shave my beard.
Yeah, well,
this is as short as I will get it, and every time I get a trim, I miss it.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to grow it back again.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty long here. I'm due for a trim, but yeah, I'm kind of the same way. In fact, if I shave now, my kids are like, "Who are you?
Who are you?"
Right? Get out of my house.
Yeah.
Bring my dad back. They actually call me Mamaw because apparently I look a lot like my mother.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
So that's enough reason to keep a beard. Don't want to be called your grandmother.
Kids bullying you into keeping your beard.
Good stuff. All right, let's take a listen to this guy here.
Between 1869 and the 1930s, over 100,000 children were shipped from Britain to Canada. They're known as the British Home Children. The children in the British Home Children program mostly came from poor working-class families, single mothers, and of course, some were orphans. Parents were told their child would have a better life overseas, but in some cases, communication was cut off. Siblings were often separated, and children were told their parents were dead. We're told they were rescued from poverty, given a better life. Now rewind just a few decades earlier. In Victorian Britain, there was something called baby farming, a system where infants were handed over for money, often by desperate mothers. Sometimes cared for, sometimes neglected, and sometimes worse. In 1872, the government introduced the Infant Life Protection Act, the first attempt to regulate paid infant care, but it was weak. Many baby farmers kept operating. Then in 1897, the law was strengthened, mandatory registration and inspections, a direct response to cases like Amelia Dyer, the details of which I don't want to get into. Now here's where it gets interesting. Many of those unwanted or unsupported children didn't disappear. Many children from institutions, charities, and baby farms were eventually moved onto ships and sent to Canada. Children as young as 3 all the way up to 17. And once in Canada, they were placed as farm laborers or domestic servants. Now this is just speculation, but if a government or elite group needed to shape a narrative before moving people into new lands, systems like baby farming, orphanages, ragged schools, which were free education for the poorest, and later the British Home Children program could have played a role in that process. So was this purely a humanitarian effort, or was there another agenda at play?
All right, so here's one way to look at this. Forget the whole Cabbage Patch thing and all of those narratives for a second. You ever seen like the movie Newsies or even Little Orphan Annie or Oliver Twist?
Right.
It's everything he's talking about in that video. Kids basically living on their own. So Newsies is like this musical where like 6 kids live together
Okay.
on their own, no parents.
Huh.
Well, that's not true. One or two of them had parents, but the other 4 kind of lived on their own. Not even in an orphanage, just in like some abandoned home.
Oh, wow.
And they even ran around with some characters that you wouldn't expect them to run around with, kind of like the Carol Burnett character in Little Orphan Annie. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
So in this movie Newsies, like you had like 4 characters that, you know how like when you go or you'll see on the TV where like people go in these masses back in that day when there was no work in the 30s, and they'd all huddle around this guy that's picking like a laborer or two for the day.
Yep.
Okay. So that's kind of the same way it was with these guys. They would go and fight for paper jobs so they could deliver papers, and they'd get some money to live off of. These kids. We were talking about this a little bit off air, but it's almost like a Children of the Corn kind of scenario, except for, you didn't see any evidence of the parents being unalived.
Unalived.
But it's like, what is that narrative? What is this piece of history that they're pulling this entertainment from?
Yeah.
And why did it happen? Why aren't we taught about it? Because it's clearly evident that something took place.
Yeah.
In fact, he brought up that, what was her name? Amelia Dyer.
Yep.
In 1896. And this is all documented history. So this isn't Cabbage Patch stuff.
Right. It's not.
This isn't what was that all about? What's the symbolism or any of this other stuff? There was an actual lady known as Amelia Dyer in like 1895 over in South Wales who would basically act as a orphanage director. She'd con these people into selling them her kids.
Wow.
And said she would take care of them and help them find thriving lives. And so she basically take these people's monies and unalive the children.
Gosh.
There's some reports of there being as many as 400 that this lady took out. And this is where this element of what's actually going on is taking place, because was she paid to do this, or was this just a con? And this lady is just a demon from hell that has no
conscience whatsoever.
Right. And just made her living doing this. I mean, this is where you start asking questions like, what is the motive? Because I'm sorry, that's just evil, man. I mean,
it is.
Go ahead. What were you
No,
gonna say?
I was just going to say, man, it absolutely is. And, and this is why we bring stuff like this up, because all in the news today, there's still stuff about things happening to kids.
Yeah.
And what frustrates me is we go through these cycles where there was that one movie that came out,
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. When the Sound of Freedom came out, everybody was, child trafficking.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, what happened? A couple of new things popped up in the media, and it's forgotten about.
Yeah.
And then you see some of the crap that goes on inside of freaking California and Hollywood. And then everybody's up in arms, and then all of a sudden something will happen in the media and it quiets down and people forget about it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they got the Epstein's list, and then all of a sudden that's a huge thing. And every time that comes up, something else happens and it quiets down and goes away. But the problem is that the situation or the actual problem never goes away. We're just distracted or programmed by the screens that sit in front of us and what come across it, so that, again, they're saying, think about this, don't think about this.
Mm-hmm.
And every time we think about something that they don't want us to, something else will pop up on the screen to redirect our thoughts. And those that poke a little bit too much, all of a sudden there's consequences for it.
Or they're disappeared.
They disappeared.
Or
there's
unalived.
People who do YouTube programs and stuff like that, they're demonetized. Their things get shut down. But the problem is that children are still suffering, but yet we go about our lives blind by what sits in front of us and we lose sight of it until we don't, and then something else happens. You know, whether it is a crash in the economy or the economy's doing amazing, whether it's a war, peace is had, or war erupts.
Well, didn't Bondi say that during a congressional hearing? Like, they were like, what about all these lists? And she's like, have you seen the Dow Jones right now?
Yeah. You know, like,
I'm like, what?
And it goes much further, like you had mentioned in the beginning, much further past any political party. It actually goes right to the heart of who we are as people, regardless of what country we live in or what we do. The only thing that allows more of it to go on is how wealthy the country is and who is actually pulling the strings behind the thing that affords more opportunity for that to happen.
Right.
But at the end of the day, man, we are just so full of sin and wickedness, and we don't want to realize it a lot of times. So we distract ourselves with other things, but it doesn't change what lies behind the surface.
No, I mean, you're absolutely correct.
And then what do we do for that? What is the only answer for that?
Well, and so I raised that question with Amelia Dyer. I don't have the answer to your question, to be honest, because it's such a global, massive issue. The only thing I can think of locally, you keep your eyes peeled and your head on a swivel, and you're watch for this kind of thing taking place. And shame on you if it happens in front of your face and you don't do anything about it.
And that's the thing, is we look at it and we see what goes on, and we think, man, what can I do to fix the problem?
Well, I'm not a see something, say something kind of guy.
Right.
But when you see reports on the news of some weirdo in a house closed in, boxed up, and neighbors that said, yeah, he was always kind of weird, and we saw these few suspect things that happened, and then you find out there's 18 children in the basement, and the neighbors all kind of said there were some funny things going on that we didn't necessarily like. And then they start showing you pictures of the place.
Right.
And the place looks like a compound with fences on the back and sheets tied up everywhere.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm sorry. Shame on you neighbors for not investigating a little closer.
Yeah.
And I'm not one of those guys that's like, keep an eye on your neighbor and keep your neighbor in check and all that stuff.
No.
But dude, if somebody's throwing fish in your pool from next door, do something about it.
That's great. But you know, you look at it, right? And you're right. So we sit there, and why don't we say something? Because we're so freaking distracted with everything going on in our life. Okay? Everything, and it's created that way.
Well,
it's created to keep our minds busy and off of the things that are of eternal importance.
Yeah.
Okay? Because Satan doesn't want us focusing on helping the children. He doesn't want us focused on that stuff. Why? Because if we focus on it and we see it, we begin to understand that we have a heart issue. And the only cure for that heart issue is Jesus.
Yeah.
And that is it. And he does not want us focused on that. He wants us focused on the turmoil going on in our life. He wants us focused on how well we're doing financially, career-wise, or how great our family is, how much our church is growing, how much our businesses are growing. Or he wants us focused on, man, things are really hard right now. There's war over there. There's war over here. I got to keep an eye out and see when Jesus is coming back. And in the meanwhile, Jesus is trying to say, you're not even looking for me. You're looking in the wrong places. I told you not to look for me when this stuff happens. I told you to just believe and follow.
And to go one step further and just a little bit darker, the Old Testament points to the fact that the enemy requires certain things to play his game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the disappearance of humans is part of that game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go much further than that. But we tend to, or at least I was kind of raised this way and led to believe this way, especially in the 80s and 90s. We've evolved past all of that. We are a civilized community. We're a civilized world that is above all that.
We're a moralistic society.
Yes. And that messes with you.
Yeah.
Because if you start to believe that, pride's an evil, nasty thing.
100%, man.
And if you start to believe we have it so much better than our ancestors did, and we don't do the things that they did in the past.
Yeah.
And then you come to find out that we're doing a lot of crap that we've always done.
Yeah.
And wow.
I know, man.
And you know, there's a lot of people that can get kind of buried by that, and they're like, and they dwell on it, and they're like, oh, darkness, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. No, man. It just points out the light so much more.
100%. When you realize that, so you go all the way back to the garden, when you realize everything today is the same fruit, it just looks different, then you realize there's only one answer.
Yeah.
And that's Jesus. Because Adam and Eve, they were disobedient in the garden. We realized we can't be obedient without Jesus. We just can't do it. So the only obedience that we can have is through him.
Yep.
And then it's through that obedience that, hey, all of a sudden, you know what? I find joy. I find peace. I'm not overwhelmed by all the dark things that everybody's throwing at me around here. I don't have to succumb to the things I used to do. You know, you look at people who are part of all these lists and all this other stuff. If they actually truly followed Christ and truly believed and walked and followed him, that list would be empty.
So kind of concluding this a little bit, you know, they pointed to it numerous times in some of these videos, but it sort of seems like 1871 up to the 1930s was when a lot of this stuff was happening.
Yeah.
Well, there were some crazy documents signed in the 1870s.
There was, and we talked about them a little bit too.
And the Civil War was wrapping up.
Yeah. Wow.
Lincoln had been shot.
That wasn't a conspiracy at all.
and I'm really starting to wonder sometimes if these wars and the numbers of men that actually died and cities that were actually burned and all this other stuff really makes me wonder if were the numbers bigger?
Wow.
Were they? And so it's like,
that's a good question, man.
And so were they like repopulating the U.S. because of how many that had actually died in the Civil War? And was it some other country's intention to come in and change the culture? I don't know. These are just questions.
You know?
But I can tell you a lot happened between the 1870s and 1930s.
Yeah.
When it came to policy, currency.
Yep. And what's one of the things we keep talking about on the show? Anytime money is involved, large amounts of money, pride, wickedness, all types of evil. I mean, the Bible says that the love of money is the root of all types of evil.
Yeah.
You know, and
seems like money and children seem to be.
Yeah, it's just two things that never should be freaking.
No, it's nauseating to think about. But this really kind of takes us down this avenue of why conspiracy, why even go here, why even talk about any of this stuff. And I think you brought up some good points, Bruce, that like, you know, if you don't question anything, you'll fall. What's that old country song? You'll fall for anything.
Oh, what is that? Yeah.
If you don't stand for something,
there you go.
You'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
And so if you're not even given the proper information on what's actually taking place, where do you stand? How can you stand if you're not told the truth?
And that's the thing, man. And it's not just, that's something that I believe personally, and I've kind of gotten more here after the last couple of years. That goes for the entirety of life.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't question how I parented my kids, how will I be able to give them the proper advice for my grandkids?
Yeah.
If I don't question what I always believed about Scripture, how will I know if it's actually the truth or if I just believed what some pastor told me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I don't question what goes on inside my government, how long will I continue to just be a sheep led to the slaughter?
Well, I mean,
that was harsh.
No. So the battlefield is in the mind.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If your mind's not healthy enough to question,
Yeah.
the whole thought process is a question narrative. It's not.
It is.
It's not like we're not robots.
No.
In fact, they want us to be robots.
Yeah.
I think a particular individual wants to put a chip in our brain, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I don't know. They can shut your car off now from remote. I don't really know that I want to be shut off remotely.
not mine, baby.
Yeah.
1999.
No, that's what I mean, man. Go get me a carburetor.
Yeah. I got one of them zombie vehicles, zombie apocalypse escape plans.
Smells like diesel when I started up.
So I was just going to maybe think about some events here that have taken place in life and how those even kind of helped lead to some of where we're at today.
For real.
And so, I was raised in the church fairly young, the United Church of Christ denomination, which I think, I can't remember when the actual merge or when that actual happened. At one point in time, I knew some church history. But it seemed like it was kind of like a well-meaning denomination at the beginning of it, which we've talked about before.
Yeah.
At the beginning of things, and when things actually start, after you put a good 50 to 100 years or however many between the beginning and where it is today, they don't look a lot alike. I'm pretty sure Sam Walton did not want Walmart to be what Walmart is today.
I'm sure not.
Not to go down that rabbit hole, but there's indoctrination that goes in a lot of these churches, and especially when it's a church that, what they call them, like they have their own delegation and their own conference and their own all these things that you go to.
Yeah.
I mean, even the big ones, Catholicism, Baptist, Presbyterian, Methodist, they all have these like delegates and all. It's almost like a government.
When you create a box and you get in it and you say, we got it right.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Right. There's no more questions.
Yeah. No, there's no more questions. That's like when you're talking to somebody and they're like, oh, well, God told me.
Yeah.
You can't talk to them any further.
Or even like last week when we were talking about excommunication and defellowship or whatever. Is that biblical? It's like, are we going to ask questions?
What's crazy is that's actually the tool that the Pharisees used against people who wanted to follow Jesus.
Yeah.
If they even so much as hinted to believing him, they would, the term we used last week was defellowship. They would remove them from the synagogue.
Yeah.
And, people are like, oh, well, they'll just go to another one. No, it's not like church today. Their synagogues were tied to every aspect of their life. People who were their friends would no longer talk to them. If they had a business or went to a friend's business, they were either no longer welcome or nobody went to theirs. Nobody in the family would speak to them anymore. Like, they basically became complete outcasts within their society.
Or they stoned them to death.
Stoned him to death. Yeah. I don't see a whole lot of Jesus in that.
No, no. And so when a church acts a lot like, I'm not even going to say the church. When people start to act like the very people that Jesus was calling out as broods of vipers.
Yeah.
Again, where's the fruit and does it match?
Right.
And that's really kind of the underlying answer to that question. So, church, a little bit of indoctrination there growing up. This is the way we do it. Don't get out of the box kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you go into college and then you figure out not everybody's been raised the same way you are or you were. The good part about college is there were some Christian organizations. And when you get a body of believers together that haven't all had the same background,
right,
it gets a little more interesting. And you're like, oh, well, I never thought of it this way. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
And I think what kind of takes place during the whole process is that whole sanctification type thing that we've talked about a few times. I kind of feel like the best way to maybe sum some of that up, and even the whole journey and questioning process of who we are and how we kind of got here. So you guys can follow along. It's Romans 7:14 through 25. So the trouble is not with the law, for it is spiritual and good. The trouble is with me, for I am all too human, a slave to sin. I don't really understand myself, for I want to do what is right, but I don't do it. There's a question right there. I'm questioning myself. I do what I hate. But if I know that what I am doing is wrong, this shows that I agree that the law is good. So I am not the one doing wrong. It is sin living in me that does it. And I know that nothing good lives in me that is in my sinful nature. I want to do what is right, but I can't. I want to do what is good, but I don't. I don't want to do what is wrong, but I do it anyway. But if I do what I don't want to do, I am not really the one doing wrong. It is sin living in me that does it. I have discovered this principle of life, that when I want to do what is right, I inevitably do what is wrong. I love God's law with all my heart, but there is another power within me that is at war with my mind. War would mean to me there's questions being thrown around.
Yes.
Questions that have to have answers, and he's telling us how to answer those, basically. But there is another power within me that is at war with my mind. This power makes me a slave to the sin and is still within me. Oh, what a miserable person I am. Who will free me from this life that is dominated by sin and death? Thank God the answer is in Jesus Christ our Lord. So you see how it is. In my mind, I really want to obey God's law, but because of my sinful nature, I am a slave to sin. What do you think about that, man?
It explains a lot, man. Because I tell you what, and I've heard different takes on this. I heard one pastor, and I don't agree. You know, this particular pastor believed that Christians can reach a point where they are sinless here before they're with Jesus.
Yeah.
That no, absolutely, and that Paul is talking about who he was before, because at this point he's basically sinless. That is not what he's doing.
He's speaking in the present.
He's talking in a time of struggle.
Right.
And what we need to realize is, as believers, you know what? Yeah, we're going to struggle. People are going to struggle. Even and as non-believers understand it, bro, you're a human, I'm a human.
It says, "Oh, what a miserable person
what a miserable person I am."
Was. Yeah.
You know, and I think in another version it says, "Who will deliver me from this body of death?"
Yeah.
You know? And it's like when we start to realize that we're all in the same boat, and that I'm not above somebody else, that I'm not being prideful and raising myself above somebody else because of what I believe, or somebody else is not either raising me above themselves or putting me beneath them because of what I believe versus what they believe. And we understand that this is the totality of who we are as the human race. I think that can be a starting point for moving forward.
And so this is all speaking to the process of sanctification.
Absolutely.
The peeling back of the layers of self and exposing who we really are in him. But what I think it does a really good job of pointing out is you might be figuring it out in this particular area, and don't hold that against your brother or sister in Christ, because there's another area where you're completely slipping still, and 100%. That person may have that area figured out and doing very well with that area.
100%, man.
And so what is your focus on, and where can you constantly have improvement made? And there comes again, questions have to be asked.
Yeah.
And questions have to be answered.
You have to do some internal looking and ask some internal questions when you look at this scripture. And you also have to look at what's happening on the outside.
Well, and so when you take this into a conspiracy narrative, which I guess is really what we're trying to explain and go down, do you remember that time when, like, you kind of believed what you thought was real and what they were telling you?
Yeah, when I didn't question anything, I was just like, oh, okay.
So I'm not really there anymore.
No.
But there's a lot of people that are.
Yeah.
And, okay, I still love them. We don't agree on those points anymore.
Right.
But we've all been there. We all did.
Yeah.
I can understand why somebody might take a poke in their arm if they feel like that's, you know, if that's been part of the narrative for so many years, that this is what you do, this is the schedule you're given.
Yeah.
In order to go into 6th grade, you do these particular things.
And it was for all of us.
And none of us questioned it.
No. And then you're hit with this major event that happens, and it's like, you have the people who have been telling you and you've never questioned, like, you need to do this or you're going to die.
Right.
Man, I can't help but to think that survival instinct within you that overrides every rational thought. Well, there has to be, because they said it was.
Right. And then when you start finding out that that's not true,
which we're finding out now that,
right,
you know what, maybe that it wasn't as safe as they said it was.
Well, and you had medical professional people saying that even then.
Yeah, and what did they do? They freaking
ostracized
defellowshipped them.
Right. Yeah.
Take their medical license.
There are some deeper, darker stories of people that are no longer with us because of things that were being said.
Yeah.
They're lesser known stories, and they're not ones that were, brought into the public.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of nastiness that went down. But I think one of the other things is, there's one of these things that's kind of known as like forbidden knowledge kind of deal.
Okay.
Where people in the past have figured things out. Take, for instance, the copper antenna thing we talked about, putting in your garden and making things grow.
Yeah.
So why in schools, like they took out home ec and all this other stuff out of schools? I know.
My kids left high school. They didn't know how to balance a checkbook, didn't know how to fry an egg, except for what we taught them at home.
But even like horticulture class would have been great. Like grow your own food, grow your own vegetables, the stuff that our grandparents did that we kind of looked at them a little wonky for.
The ability to be self-sufficient just a little bit more was taken away.
Totally taken away. Then you figure out that maybe people in the past actually had some information that even helped them get along better. Like they knew a little bit more about personality types. They knew a little bit more about, Jim's this way, Steve's this way, Bob's that way. We can all work together because I know what his strengths and weaknesses are.
Yeah.
And I'm not as offended by them knowing that this is the way he's wired.
I know he's just a cranky old man.
Right.
And I just take him as a cranky old man and I don't get upset at him.
Totally. And I don't know. It's like the understanding has been taken away. And, we've talked a little bit about some of that. There's been wedges and divides that have seemed like they've been put in there on purpose. I mean, even based on race and nationality and all these other things, even the genders.
And I was gonna say, even look, like, when some people got poked and some didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
and some profiles were like, I care about humanity, and some profiles it's like
to the point where it's like, you should die and I should live.
Yeah.
And so, and here you go. Here's a perfect example. And this is, we're not perfect in my household, man. Our household is a wild one. So right now I have a couple grandkids. I have one that was just born a few months ago. My daughter there decided to go the route of no vaccinations. I have another daughter, and my grandchild's a little over a year. She has decided to go to the route of basically all the vaccinations. There's no infighting in my family about vaccinations.
That's awesome.
Because what does it bother my one daughter who decided to go all the vaccinations that my other one doesn't? Because if she doesn't, and just say my granddaughter over here who has no vaccinations gets something, well, you've got all your vaccinations.
Yeah.
So what are you worried about?
Yeah. If the system works properly,
and that is what we should get back to, that don't we all have the ability to make the decision how we want to live our own life?
Well,
and we reap our own consequences from it.
We used to live with that mentality of you do your thing and I'll do my thing. We'll leave each other alone kind of deal.
And if your vaccinations work so well and they are that good, then don't worry if I didn't get them, because I'll deal with my own consequences.
Yeah.
And that goes to all kinds of areas of life. It really does.
I think that's where this all really kind of comes into play. And then that's where the questions really start coming in. What does it matter to you kind of thing? And I vaguely remember a statement being used often that raises another question.
Okay.
My body, my choice.
Ooh.
Because if that's a statement that should be used and proclaimed, then I have to question why it's a problem for certain people to do it and other people not.
Yeah.
That's where conspiracy comes from.
And that's where the questions come in. And then you realize that, well, I chose to live my life this way. and I expect you to do the same type of mentality.
Right.
And that is completely different from, well, I get to choose how I want to raise my kids and you get to choose how to raise yours. Instead, it's, well, no, we all need to raise our kids this way.
Mm-hmm.
You
No,
know?
completely agree. You know, the last element to all of this, I don't even know if you're supposed to talk about it yet, but in 2020, there was a race held between two candidates, and it seems like the candidate that did not receive as many votes as they say they did won.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I do.
That didn't help the situation or the
No.
narrative.
No, it didn't.
I think they're still talking about that.
Oh, they are. I mean, I saw something the other day on it about this state says there were this many, and I'm like, good Lord. Okay.
Yeah.
If it happened, how do we prevent it from
I mean,
happening again and just leave it alone?
Right. We're 6 years removed at this point.
You know?
Which is amazing to think about. That was 6 years ago. It feels like yesterday on some levels.
Regardless on if I voted for the guy who didn't get elected in 2020.
Right.
I don't want him to have a third term.
Right.
You know, it's time to.
In fact, I'd rather see more term limits on other folks along with that office as well.
Oh, can we please get somebody who's just a little bit younger?
Yeah, that would be nice.
You know, on both sides of the aisle.
Well, I think the last time they did that, it didn't work out well for him. And
no, it didn't work out well for him at all.
That's what started a lot of this whole questioning everything that we're on right now.
And I think the next one that was coming up, it didn't work out well for him either.
No,
they got rid of him.
And he's a guy we haven't talked about much, and I'll say his name because his name should be said. It's Charlie Kirk.
That's right.
You know, I was already kind of awake with some of this stuff, but when you're already asking questions and something like that happens.
Yeah. And I think that's what happens is you start asking questions, and before you get to the answers, you begin to see more questions coming up.
Yeah. Well, and when it comes to him, I didn't know a whole lot about him. I had seen a few clips and this and that.
Yeah.
But after it happened, I went back and watched some videos.
Yeah, you start looking.
And this goes straight down the avenue we're talking about. If they want us divided and if they want us not coming together, then that's a person you take out.
Absolutely. And I mean, what did Jesus say in Scripture? A house divided against itself will not stand.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you right now, when that dude spoke to people, and I never witnessed him, I never went to any of his speeches, but watched enough online. When he spoke, you could tell he knew Scripture and was speaking truth. I can't say what the guy did in his personal life. I don't know anything about him.
You know,
but everything that he was saying and the way that he treated people in public is the way that I would expect somebody that takes Scripture seriously to act.
Yeah. And you know, I had somebody that I know say, oh, well, you know, he was a racist and he was this and he was that. And I said, and I challenged them and I said, you know what? Okay, if you believe that, I'm not going to argue with you, but I'm going to tell you, just please show me one video. Yeah. Show me one clip. Show me one statement, because I haven't been able to find one.
No.
Okay. So now if there is no evidence of it, where did that come from? That's part of something that somebody else put in motion to discredit what he says, because just what you said, what he said and what he was doing was producing a movement that went against the grain of what another person wanted.
Well, and I think it's been proven pretty much in the last few months after that all took place that he was the movement. It wasn't the organization that he was working with.
Absolutely. And they were afraid that I believe that he was going to end up running for president.
Oh, I would agree with that.
And the effect that he was having on the youth of the nation.
Well, that's one of the narratives that kind of swayed me, was started seeing all these LGBTQ and African American and other nationalities that he had disagreements with and was arguing with, who after the fact he became friends with and still had relationships with. What have we talked about in these podcasts?
Yeah.
Relationship. Right. It's not just about throwing a bunch of scriptural words at people and then walking away. It's about giving them your time, giving them your attention. And man, from what everything that I was able to put together and piece together, that dude did it.
And the power of being able to agree to disagree on something and still be friends or still be cordial with each other or still have a mutual respect for one another.
Yeah.
That is what scares people who have a motive to divide the country.
It's the fruit of the spirit in action.
It is.
So what I think is kind of interesting when we talk about this conspiracy theft, when we talk about questions, we talked about it earlier in the episode, when that actual term conspiracy theorist came out, there was somebody that was taken out.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are again today, probably the most influential person in my lifetime in that same vein,
Right.
being taken out again, or being taken out this time.
Right.
And I'm not saying he was the most influential person to be taken out.
Yes.
In my lifetime, I guess is what I'm trying to say. All it does is stir up more questions.
And I think what was so impactful about the Charlie Kirk assassination is that he wasn't a political figure.
Mm-mm.
He was just a dude with a microphone and a
going
message.
to college campuses and having discussions. And there were a few other characters that were in that same vein and that have done similar things that have been threatened that gave it up. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to guess at things, but it even seems like he had been getting some threats too.
It's, now some things that came out, but then, then again, you got to ask questions. And I think that's the basis of what we're doing here is we're saying, don't just believe everything that comes across your screen, guys.
Sure.
Ask a question. Use some critical thinking about it. And then if you come up with the same answer you did in the beginning, great.
And don't be afraid to not have all the answers.
For real.
You don't
because I can tell you, I just ain't that smart. I'm just not.
I'm right there with you. There are more things that we've talked about on this show that I will probably never have an answer to.
Listen, all you got to do is look at the fact that I am eyeballs deep in freaking Where's Bigfoot, the mermaids, okay? Like, for real.
Dude, apparently other people are too, because that mermaid short went slightly viral. I don't know what viral is, but
mermaids have that sexy fish thing going on. I don't know what else to say about it, bro.
Until you get a glimpse of one.
Until you get a real look at one, you're like, oh my gosh.
Oh.
It's like waking up in the morning after you had a couple too many drinks when you were single. And you're like, oh my God.
Did you want your omelet scrambled? Oh my gosh.
I was like, no, I didn't.
All right, so for this week's Brevard Spotlight, I don't have any. Looks like they don't have an actual website, and I'm not even sure that this Facebook page is up and running, but I do believe that is the correct phone number there. But a Better Cut Barbershop right up on North Courtney, pretty close to 528. I get my hair cut there, and they never try to touch my beard. So it's important,
Oh, yeah. There's nothing worse than a barber that just assumes he's supposed to touch your beard.
Oh, right. You didn't ask me about that. What are you doing, man? Nothing below the forehead.
Nothing below the forehead, pal. Not unless I ask specifically.
So Cody and Jen are two of the senior barbers there. They do a great job. Both of them have cut my hair before. And check them out. I think they're pretty good. If you need a barber, if you're looking for that old-time kind of barbershop feel, these people do it right.
Okay.
And so, all right, so we're going to go into this one last segment that really kind of wraps up everything that we've talked about. Because I don't know if you know this or not, Bruce. There's apparently people that just don't believe anything God has to say or anything God did out there. Yeah. Huh. It's the strangest thing. I think it's called atheism.
Is that what it is?
I believe so.
I heard there's no such thing as a true atheist.
Well, funny enough.
They believe in something.
Funny enough, that's what Alice Cooper would tell you.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah. He'd say, I don't believe in atheists. God's DNA is imprinted on each and every one of us. And, you know, anybody that is an atheist or maybe has done any sort of research into this stuff probably knows who Richard Dawkins is. I think he's one of the most infamous atheists of our time.
Okay.
A lot more famous atheists are people like C.S. Lewis and Lee Strobel and people that kind of stepped into that vein, took it a little bit more serious and really tried to figure out why they believed the way they did and ended up out on the other side of that discussion. But this guy makes a couple interesting claims, Mr. Richard Dawkins, that I don't know that he meant to make at first. And then once he gets into the scenario, I think
one of those oops statements.
I think so. I think he kind of backpedals a little bit, but then the individual that's talking to him does a really good job spelling out what we believe as Christians and why the argument that atheists want to have with Christians may not even be the argument that they think it is.
Huh.
We'll talk a little bit more about that after it plays out here. So.
When you look at history, and let's leave aside, maybe I alluded to the possibility that some historians think Jesus never existed. I take that back. Jesus existed. However, if you're going to say that Jesus was born of a virgin, that Jesus walked on water, that he turned water into wine, that is palpably anti-scientific. There is no evidence for that. And if there were, you would be, well, I mean, no, there simply isn't any evidence for that, and no scientist could possibly take the idea seriously.
I can make it worse for you.
I know you can.
Because Jesus actually claimed to be the Logos that created the whole universe. And if this is the Creator incarnate, making water into wine and so on is really a triviality. The more fundamental thing is the fact that he claimed to be and gave evidence that he was God. When you say it's anti-scientific, I don't think it's anti-scientific at all. Science cannot say that miracles do not occur. It can say they're highly improbable. But nobody is claiming that these things occurred by natural processes. They occurred because God fed his power in. Nor did the whole universe, if we look at it, occur in that sense by natural processes. God created it. We study all the natural processes within it. So when you say it's anti-scientific, I think it's not anti-scientific.
What I mean by that is that if, and when doing science, we constantly have to keep in mind that at any moment there might be a little magic trick slipped in. That would completely nullify the whole enterprise of science.
Oh, I agree with that. But
well,
you see,
that's what you're allowing then.
No, I'm not allowing that at all, because in order to recognize what the New Testament calls miracle, a special act of God, you must be living in a universe that has regularities and that we recognize them. I agree with you entirely.
Otherwise you wouldn't notice the miracles.
That's exactly true. Yeah. You wouldn't recognize if dead people were popping up all over the place. You wouldn't think it was very special. But the fact is you need two things, not one. You've got to have regularities which we call the laws of nature, although they're not causes. They're in a sense descriptions that we can use. You also need to be able to recognize those so that, for example, when Joseph discovered that his wife-to-be Mary was pregnant, he simply didn't believe her story. He was going to divorce her. He knew exactly where babies came from. He knew the regularity. It took very special convincing for him to realize that something extremely special had happened. But science cannot stop that. The question is, of course, did such a thing ever happen? And the central focus in the New Testament is not that, which is not so readily accessible to evidence, the virgin conception, but the resurrection of Christ. And ancient historians, and this has fascinated me recently going over it, ancient historians whose discipline is very venerable, and I'm not talking about Christian ancient historians, ancient historians, many of them, even at the skeptical end of the spectrum, say that the evidence for the resurrection of Christ is very powerful. The explosion of the Christian church from a non-proselytizing group of Jews in the first century, the empty tomb and all the rest of it, has even led Geza Vermesh, who's one of the most distinguished ancient historians in Oxford, to say, yes, this tomb was empty, and hallucinations and this kind of explanation do not wash. So we have to ask ourselves, are we prepared to believe in historical testimony or not?
Man, I thought that was good.
That was, man.
Yeah. I think it's kind of funny how by the end of it, Richard Dawkins was kind of, well, number one, he admitted Jesus existed.
Yeah.
Which for years he wrote in all of his books that he was never even a man.
Yeah.
But then he kind of agreed and said, yeah, that can't be a miracle if there's not a regulatory frame for it to fall in.
Yeah.
And yet we witness it, kind of thing. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that?
You know, I look at it and I liked what the other gentleman was talking about. You know, we try to rely so heavily on science.
It's ingrained in our culture.
It is. And even Jesus had said in the Bible, he said, you know, the Jews seek after signs and the Gentiles seek after knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And what science is it's the knowledge. It's a knowledge that we seek after to be able to explain everything that goes on around us. But most of the time, we use science as an explanation, but it's an explanation with the absence of God in it, which makes it theory because there's holes in it and there's certain things that we cannot prove because you can't prove them without God because God is what has placed everything here. All science is how certain things kind of work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like God created the cell. All science does is, well, we're able to split it. We can tell you what it is and what it does and what's in it. But we can't really tell you how it got here.
Yeah.
Not A, B, C, and D. We can tell you like A, C, and D, but we don't have B.
Right.
Well, B is where God comes in, and you can't put the cell together without him.
What that really kind of points to is if you have a developer or an architect
There
or
you
somebody
go.
like that,
Yep.
and you get their plans, but you have questions about those plans, are you going to go to somebody that's, in this particular case, you'd be going to a scientist and asking about the creation of the universe.
Yep.
I don't know what the equivalent would be to looking at the blueprints, but if you really want to know what those blueprints mean, you've got to go to that developer or that architect.
Absolutely. And, you know, and it's like, it goes into what we were talking about division. What has happened in our society is it has put science on one end and God or religion on the other.
Mm-hmm.
In actuality, they're both part of the same puzzle.
Yeah.
And when we stop looking at them as two separate things and we realize that science is us trying to figure out how God did some things, I think we'll have a lot more answers than we will questions. Because all science is the question, how did a cell manage to replicate? How did that plant grow? So we can look naturally at how something happened and how it came about, but the answer on how it was actually created in the beginning to begin with, we will never have that answer if we remove God from the equation.
Well, and I'll even take it one step further, creation aside, some of the topics we've talked about.
Yeah.
If you put the sciences together, they really start to tell a different story. If you look at the anthropology, the archaeology, the sociology, mixed in with some biology or some meteorology or whatever, if you look at all the elements together, they start to tell a different story than if you look at one element alone working on its own. And I think that's where it's like it gets a little convoluted on, well, science says this. Well, you say science said that, but you didn't even look at the archaeological evidence that goes with whatever basis it is you're making.
And the thing is, science will say to a point whatever you direct it to say. Now, if you just take the information from science and you just leave it alone and you don't put your opinion into it, just like what you said. You look at all the different sciences and you don't put your opinion into it.
Right.
It will point you to a creator.
Yeah. The creation versus evolution debate that's in schools, that's in textbooks. It's interesting to me that education pushes any sort of evolution narrative when Charles Darwin himself said, in order for this to be proven and to be factual, we have to have the fossil record to back it up.
That's right. So they're
Which
pushing a
has
theory.
it's never been proven or found.
Nope. They're pushing a theory, something that is theoretical instead of factual. But they're pushing it as factual because, again, they're looking and they need A, B, C, and D. Say, well, we got A, we got C, and D. That's enough to say that it's factual.
Yeah.
But it's not.
No. And I think it would be more genuine in an education setting to say we don't know.
Yeah.
Than it would be to make a claim that generations have been raised on.
Absolutely. And here you go. Here's an example. The gentleman brought up an example of science without opinion. When he talked about non-Christian, what was it, archaeologists? I forget what he had said that, historians, non-Christian historians that pointed to the fact that there was overwhelming evidence that the resurrection happened. That is science, the science of history, without opinion being put into it. And you just let it point its way. So,
yeah, the accounts of others.
Yep.
And I guess that's, and we've talked about this before, but one of the sticking points is the further we get from these actual events that took place, we seem to think we know more than what the people that were closest to those events accounted for.
It's like my teenager. By the time they hit 16, they think they know everything that there is.
I mean, I did know everything as a teenager.
You know, we just failed.
I've just forgotten.
Yeah. We just fail to realize that we're only teenagers right now in this whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? And that's what we're failing to realize. We think we have all the answers, but we are still in the point in this life, in this existence for the human race, that we're in that teenage mode still where we think we have the answers. But when we finally get to where we need to be, and that's with Jesus, when we're finally with him and the veil is lifted up and we get to see him for who he is when he comes back, then we realize, wow. Then we're now the 30-year-old who looks back and go, wow, my parents were pretty smart.
Yeah.
I was dumb as a teenager.
Yeah.
I thought I had all this figured out and I didn't.
I would go one step further and say that we're still infants. And the day we finally figured it out and said, Jesus is Lord, the cord got pulled and we woke up out of that pod like Neo in the Matrix. So oddly enough, the Matrix came out in 2000, a year before all of the craziness with towers being hit and sending us down this crazy trajectory of nonsense that we question a lot of things. And we're being presented with, it seems like, 2 accounts, if not more, on a daily basis. And what color pill are you going to swallow?
Yeah.
Seems to be the driving narrative at this point. And if the red pill means that's the blood of Christ, I'll take it.
And, I was just going to say, for me, I'm a little frustrated with getting hit from all these different points and they're all supposed to be true. And more, especially lately, I have fallen back to the default of, let me just take a look at the Bible and see what it's got to say about this. Because, we did a video on, we did a podcast on how reliable the Bible is. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. We're not going to get into all the info for that, but just check it out and ask some questions. That's what we would tell you. But I know that I can go back to that and I can trust it.
Yeah.
To come up with the answers that I need to find a direction.
And if you don't want to check out that video, check out Wesley Huff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that dude's got it down, man. And he's been in some podcasts and had those Charlie Kirk type discussions.
Yeah.
With a lot of different people. And his demeanor and who he is doesn't change, even if he disagrees with those people.
Right.
And man, that's important.
Oh, absolutely. And I would say, and I really think that there's something happening in the world today when it comes to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You know that people are being drawn to him in different ways and in different numbers.
Yeah.
And in ways that we're not used to seeing.
Well, and I think that's why these types of discussions are important.
Absolutely. And I think I think we both agree on that. If you find yourself there and you're not sure where to go, because maybe we both had good experience in different church organizations and horrible experiences in different church organizations. If you message and you let us know where you're from, we can dig around and we can find you a solid place to go for a start. And if you live in Brevard, we know a couple already. You know, just to give you a start. You know, get in somewhere, start reading the word first.
You know, I'll say this much. Even the worst experiences that I've had at churches and everything else, being around people that actually believe their faith and actually live their faith is always uplifting.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Even in those unpleasant scenarios.
Yeah.
There were so many good things to pull out of them still.
Yep. And and to nail home what we talked about last week again too, that church is not everybody in the church.
Yeah.
You may have run into a couple of knuckleheads. Maybe it was a knucklehead pastor. Maybe it was just the lady sitting next to you.
Right.
Hopefully it wasn't me.
Or the person making the coffee and it was just gross.
You know what I mean? And just realize that it's not the whole church.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a couple people because, to go back to the scripture that you just read in Romans a little while ago,
Yeah.
I do the things I don't want to do and I don't do what I know I should. That fits pretty much everybody, including the person sitting next to you.
Well, and you know what?
Church.
Whatever the experiences that you had at the church and with whoever it was, it could have been a bad day too.
It could have been a bad day. And who's to say that person is the same now as they were 6 months ago when you got your feelings hurt?
I mean, we are all going through that sanctification process.
We are, man.
And we've all got our strengths and weaknesses. And we've all got areas that we're looking to work on.
Yeah.
So whatever that weakness is in someone else that really kind of ruined your day or ruined the situation, there may be a lot more to learn in another area.
100%. Don't let somebody else drive you away from gathering together with other believers.
You got anything else to add this week, man?
I don't, man. I think we about covered it, brother.
I think so too. I think we probably more than covered it. I think we're good at that. We just keep going.
We
got
a lot to say, man.
Yeah. And sometimes we've got 4 or 5 different ways to say it.
Some of it's good. A lot of it's like, yeah, we're going to have to cut that.
Right.
You guys have no idea how long these videos actually are.
Yeah.
You get to see the finished product.
Yeah. This one in particular has probably got like 3 hours I'm going to have to cut out of it. Just kidding. All right, man. You guys have a great week.
All right. Have a good one.